Hey Pokedad fan club, it's me Pokedad, and today we're doing another Pokemon news update for Rage of the Broken Sky, which is going to be Breakpoint in English. We're looking at two new cards. We're looking at our first supporter that we've seen. It's going to be Delinquent. I think they called it at first Scary Lady, but then changed it because in English it's going to be called Delinquent. But this card could be kind of scary. I see some possible combos, so let's take a look at what it does, and then we'll talk about how it could possibly be used. So, Delinquent, discard a stadium card in play. If you do, your opponent chooses 3 cards from his or her hand and discards them. Okay, that is kind of scary, I've got to be honest with you. I guess the very first thing we should talk about is the turn 1 Scary Lady, or Delinquent as it's called here. Alright, so right now, if you haven't checked out my video on Night March, you should do that, because this could be a combo that could be used for Night March and could literally just kill the other opponent. Okay, so here's the thing with Night March, you're drawing through all your cards. I mean, you're going to try to see 30 cards on your turn 1. And the last thing we really want to try to do is we really don't want to have to use Sycamore if we have to. Now, sometimes we have to and we can't help it. But right now, a big combo that's going on is go through like 30 cards in your deck and then play Hex Maniac so they can't use their own Shamans. I think this potential could even be worse, though, because I play a red card in my Night March deck. And there's a good chance I run into that when I'm looking at the first, 30 cards in my deck on turn 1. So if you red card them, go ahead and put the Stadium out, Dimension Valley, and then hit them with Delinquent. So the red card drops them down to 4 cards. And then Delinquent drops them down to 1 card. And maybe they still have one good card that they can use. Maybe it's a VS Seeker. Maybe it's a Sycamore. Could be, but regardless, they're going to lose 3 cards that they probably don't want to lose. And if they're drawing dead after those 4 cards, now they're only going to have 2 cards in their hand when they start their turn. And they may just continue to draw dead. So, I don't know. I think Delinquent could be really harsh on turn 1 against your opponent. The other thing that I think could be very useful in this deck with this card is Mildex. Think about this. I mean, if you... Alright, so the idea with mill decks is you want them to draw through their deck. I mean, most mill decks aren't really require the opponent to kind of help them draw through the deck. So, if you think about this, if you use that combo to, reduce them down to 1 card early on in the game, and then they have to, let's say they do have a Sycamore, but then they have to draw 7 more cards, and then you can red card them again and do this again and constantly force them to either A, not be able to attack or play very much, and B, have to draw through their deck just to get going. It just makes me think mill decks are going to be really, really strong. I mean, think about it. Mill decks already have so many energy denial cards, and with head ringers and hammers, and now you've got card manipulation. I think mill decks, this card is going to make mill decks maybe even broken, possibly. You might see Houndoom EX decks come out in expanded. You'll continue to see the I forgot what it is. It's Sableye, the Sableye that junk hunts to grab more hammers back. Well, now you can grab Delinquent back and cause your opponent to lose 3 cards every turn. Oh my goodness, that's just crazy. Throw in some hammers and man, you're just really racking up. Now, I know the Sableye can't actually grab Delinquent, but it could grab a VS Seeker, which could grab Delinquent. So, I don't know. I think mill decks and really fast decks that can get off to a real big start on turn one can advance. So I think aggro decks and mill decks are going to take the most advantage from this card. I think it's going to be very playable. Might even be a staple one of in almost every deck, just because being able to do that to your opponent is so mean. But anyway, let's move right along. So Delinquent, let's look at Espeon EX. Okay, so at first I saw this and I thought, this is not a very good card. But the more and more I thought about it, I just really contemplated what it could be used for. And I'm beginning to think this is going to be what I call a utility card. This is going to be the Swiss Army card that's going to be seen in a lot of decks. Okay, so before we even look at the card, one of the ideas behind Rage of the Broken Sky is they're trying to pit basic EXs, or just basics, versus megas versus breaks. So you've got this idea here. I mean, they've got cards in the deck that are designed to help just basic Pokemon. The Fighting Spirit Belt, and you see it over and over. Then you have other cards that are just being used to help breaks. And then you have the megas, of course. So you see this over and over and over again in this set. And I think it's going to bring a balance to the game, but it's also going to bring a lot of struggle to know what to do, what to play in the game. It's gonna almost create a little bit of chaos. And I think this card can kind of be one of those cards that can help stabilize your deck no matter what you're playing. All right, so here's the thing. It's got 2 attacks. Both of them are useful, and both of them are useful in different ways. So the first one is Miracle Shine for a colorless. Devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card on it into your opponent's hand. Okay, so Miracle Shine. Now we've seen this card, we've seen Claydol a couple sets back, I think in Ancient Origins, had the same attack, could devolve your opponent's Pokemon and put them back into their hand. Now, you're thinking, though, why would I do that? Okay, they're just going to re-evolve them the next turn. So how is that going to be helpful? All right, well, here's how it's going to be really helpful. Mega decks are going to really have to watch out for this card. Majorly watch out for this card. All right, here's the reason why. Most Mega decks are playing 3 Spirit Links. All right, a lot of times even in Mega decks, you don't get the Spirit Link, and you have to Mega Evolve without it anyway. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. All right, but what if you had used like a Startling Megaphone, a Zero Sick, or an Expanded Tool Scrap or something like that? You got rid of the Spirit Links, and then you played Head Ringers, put the Head Ringers on, and then devolved. All right, your opponent basically at this point, if they're playing Mega Pokemon, will not be able to play them anymore. They're going to have to stick with their standard Pokemon. And here's the reason why. Because if they go ahead and waste the turn to evolve again, then you just use Espeon again, Miracle Shine, and bring it back to their hand again. So they're never, ever, ever going to be able to play with the Mega Pokemon. You can just make them play around that. That could make your Mega decks super strong. And I'm thinking of several decks in mind right now that would benefit from this. I don't want to give them away because I'm going to probably show them off in upcoming videos when this set is released. So Miracle Shine is going to be pretty awesome. All right, now Psycho Shock. Not super, super great. Okay, 70 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. So it's kind of like Hydreigon Shred, where it just goes through everything. All right, now I like this because Hydreigon was a dragon type, and the only real way you could use Hydreigon is if you were playing some kind of dragon variant, so you could use the double colorless. By having Espeon here, we can slap a muscle band on, and it can two-hit most EXs, but it can also go through Beautifly. It can go through the Safeguarders. It can go through Pyroar. It can go through anything Aegislash. You can go through those kind of effects and still get damage off. And the thing is, it only requires a Psychic Energy and a double colorless. Can be played in every deck instead of just a Hydreigon deck, instead of just a Dragon deck. So Psycho Shock is going to be good. Also remember Dimension Valley. This is going to play really well in Psychic decks because Miracle Shine then is free. You don't even need a card on Espeon to use Miracle Shine. So you're going to be able to devolve your opponent's Pokemon anyway. And then Psycho Shock now does just for a Psychic and a colorless. So 2 attachments, not necessarily needing the double colorless to use Psycho Shock. So is Espeon going to be like have a deck built around it? No. Is Espeon going to be played in competitive play? Absolutely. This card will see play. It's going to be the Swiss Army knife. It may only be a one-of or in certain decks, but it is going to be that tech card that is going to be seen in a lot of different decks. And it may be the one card that swings basic EXs, the power to them instead of breaks and all these others. Other things to consider is, let's say, you're going against a Zoroark break, you put 110 damage on it or something. You use this thing to de-evolve it, and boom, the Zoroark goes down. Now they still have the break in their hand, but now they've got to go through another full evolution. So this is going to be really good. Anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on this. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your comments below. Tell me how you plan on using these 2 cards in your decks. This is PokeDad signing off. We'll talk to you later. Bye.